the various hormones that regulate tubular reabsorption and secretion, or the last two processes of your urine formation. So we have here the hormones, what stimulates the release of these hormones, the site of their action, kung diin nila pina-provide ang ilang mechanism, and lastly, what they do to your nephron, or how they affect your reabsorption and your secretion. Number one, you have your angiotensin II. So the stimulus of the release of angiotensin II is a decrease in blood pressure or blood volume. So the site of action of angiotensin II is in your proximal convoluted tubule, and the effect is to increase reabsorption of sodium and water. So kung i-increase niya ang reabsorption ni sodium and ni water, this would mean that the extra water will go back to your circulation, and it will form a concentrated type of urine. So what is the significance? So if there is a decrease in blood pressure or blood volume, meaning jutay ang fluid sa body ta. So your body releases angiotensin II in order to reabsorb the water and form concentrated urine nga para makakonserve the water. So end goal is water conservation. The more concentrated your urine is, the more water you get to keep for your body. Okay, jutay lang nakabawa mo, jutay lang output. That is for angiotensin II. Next, you have your aldosterone. So your aldosterone is stimulated when angiotensin II is released in your body, or if your plasma potassium, or if the potassium in the blood is increased. So meaning, i-increase siya if concentrated katama in mga blood, or if nag-release ka na angiotensin II. So you have your aldosterone, and this will act on your collecting tubules. Anong mechanism yan ni aldosterone? So the same sila ni ADH or vasopressin. So ADH is anti-diuretic hormone. So if you can see, ADH is stimulated by increased blood osmolarity. This is just talking about the concentration of your blood. So the same na sila ni increased plasma potassium. Or it is stimulated by a decrease in blood volume. The same sila ni angiotensin II. So these two, aldosterone and ADH, react on your collecting tubule in order to perform an increase in facultative H2O reabsorption. So diba, this is 10% of water, and when you say H2O reabsorption, gabalik si water sa blood, and you will also get concentrated urine. So ano gani, when you see, when you have concentrated urine, jutay na water, gina-exit sa body mo. So you get to keep more water for yourself, since lubo in yung blood volume or tama concentrated in yung blood. Kailangan palasawon siya liwat. Okay? Next, you have your ANP. So this is your atrial natriuretic peptide. The stimulus is a stretching of your heart atria, or the receiving chambers of your heart. So diba, kung mag-stretch si atria, it would mean that there's a lot of blood in your heart. Okay, so too much blood naman siya. So what your body needs to do is that it needs to decrease naman the fluid in your body, because it's not healthy to have that much blood volume or pressure. Your ANP will act on your proximal convoluted tubule and your collecting tubule in order to increase sodium secretion and increase urine output. So when you say secretion, diba, from the blood, ipagawa niyo sa tihik, kaya because it's too much already. Okay, so you get to have a diluted, more or less, type of urine. Because instead, na taguan mo ang excess ng fluid sa body mo, since this time you are not dehydrated, instead tamaan na kadamo ang pressure sa inyong mga blood, you need to get out more urine para ma-normalize or equalize ang pressure inside your body. So this is for your ANP. Lastly, you have your parathyroid hormone or your PTH. So this is stimulated by a decrease in plasma calcium or decrease in calcium sa blood. Okay, you can also say that this is a decrease in the concentration of calcium in the blood. So this acts on your late distal convoluted tubule in order to increase calcium reabsorption. So why is this important? Kaya diba nabuo si calcium sa blood? So kailangan ka siya pataason si calcium sa blood. Right? So muna siya ang mechanism ni parathyroid hormone. So this is it for the hormones regulating the last two processes of urine formation.
The bladder is a muscular organ with carefully balanced controls that regulate its size and wall tension. Urine, produced in the kidneys, flows into the bladder through the ureters and leaves the bladder through the urethra. The triangular area formed by these three openings is called the trigone. The bladder muscle, called the detrusor, is relaxed until the bladder fills to half a pint, or 250 milliliters of fluid. The urethral sphincters contract to keep shut against the mounting pressure of urine.
There are basically two doors that are shut, which holds the urine in. The first door is the internal sphincter muscle, which is made of smooth muscle and is under involuntary control, meaning that it opens and closes automatically. Typically, that internal sphincter muscle opens up when the bladder is about half full. The second door is the external sphincter muscle, and it's made of skeletal muscles and is under voluntary control, meaning that it opens and closes when a person wants it to. This is the reason that it's possible to stop urine midstream by tightening up that muscle, which is called doing Kegel exercises. Once urine has passed through the external sphincter muscle, it exits the body. In women, the exit's immediate, and in men, the urine flows through the penis before it exits. So when specialized nerves called stretch receptors in the bladder wall sense that the bladder is about half full, they send impulses to the spinal cord, specifically the sacral spinal cord at levels S2 and S3, known as the Micturition Center, and the brain, specifically two locations in the pons, the Pontine Storage Center and the Pontine Micturition Center. The spinal cord response is part of the Micturition Reflex, and it causes an increase in parasympathetic stimulation and decrease in sympathetic stimulation, which makes the detrusor muscle contract and the internal sphincter relax. It also decreases motor nerve stimulation to the external sphincter, allowing it to relax as well. At this point, urination would happen, if not for the pons. The pons is the region of the brain that we train to voluntarily control urination. If we want to delay urination, or hold it in, the Pontine Storage Center overrides the Micturition Reflex. And when we want to urinate, the Pontine Micturition Center allows for the Micturition Reflex to happen.
The lower urinary tract differs in the male and female. In the male, the urethra passes through the prostate gland at the base of the bladder, then out the underside of the penis, and is therefore considerably longer than the female urethra, which exits just anterior to the vaginal opening. The prostate and the difference in length between the male and female urethra make for a substantial difference in urinary function and potential problems. For example, the shorter female urethra allows more frequent infection to ascend into the bladder, while its position anterior to the birth canal and the relative weakness of the external sphincter muscle subject it to frequent weakening after childbirth or menopause. The male urethra, on the other hand, quite frequently becomes constricted by a growing prostate gland and can shut off urine flow altogether.